Hello, and welcome to my podcast, You Inspired. We cover topics such as health, entrepreneurship, relationships, parenting, and just ways to help you live your best life. For more information about my healings and books, go to carissasims.com. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Crystal Dwyer Hansen.
Hi, Carissa.
Welcome.
It's so great to be here with you. So happy to join you today.
Oh, thanks. You have such a calm and joyous energy. It's like you're so grounded and happy. It's just exudes out of your soul.
Oh,
So
thank you. I
wonderful to
appreciate
have your
that.
energy here. So let me tell you a little bit about Crystal. She's an international speaker, researcher, corporate consultant, author, and entrepreneur. And she just came out with an amazing new book with Mark Victor Hansen called Ask: The Bridge Between Your Dreams and Your Destiny. There it is. Yes. So her expertise in the field of human potential and her years as a transformational life coach, wellness nutrition expert, she has seen people experience profound and lasting transformation in relationships, career, health, and wellness by tapping into their own inner resources. Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you. So great to be here. And yeah, that's what it's all about, right? Just tapping into your own resources because that's where you essentially will find every single thing you need.
Mm, that's pretty profound because I think a lot of people, including myself, look to other people or look outside of ourselves for the answer and don't always trust our instinct or our inner guidance. How do we know that we have these inner resources? How do we have that confidence to trust within ourselves?
It's something that develops over time, and it only develops when you take the time to sort of explore your own inner resources. Because the problem we have right now in the world that we live in is there's so much noise. You and I were just talking about the notifications going off all the time, right? So there's all of this. We live in this very sensory world, and more so than ever, there's all this stuff happening around us that is like demanding our attention and calling us this way or that way. Life is moving at a very fast pace right now just because we can accelerate everything we do through the internet, through just this instant stuff happening, text messages. I mean, people don't pick up the phone and call, they just throw you a text really quick, and that, so information is traveling so quickly. But what ends up happening is we live in this like total sensory world, which is really this world outside of ourselves. Okay. And then we start to depend on the sensory world to kind of run our day, run the show, and it starts to control and run our entire lives. And we don't even realize it's happening because, we all have jobs and work and families and things like that. But it's only when we can step away from that sensory world and go into your own quiet inner world, that you can start to find the actual place where all creation happens. Because, every basically, we're looking outside of ourselves and we look at this world around us and we go, that's my life. But really, that's just the effect of the life you created from the inside. So until you start to go
Ooh.
inside of yourself, right, and deliberately learn to create what you really really want, you'll keep getting disappointed. You'll keep going,
Mm.
why are my relationships, not working? Why can't I achieve these things I want to achieve? It's because we're looking to the wrong thing.
I feel like that was so profound what you just said. Like people will look outside and say, "This is my life." Can you repeat that again for our audience so they just like maybe get it a little bit deeper?
Sure. No, I'd love to. So, most of us look at our lives. Okay. We look outside ourselves and go, this is my life. And we're sort of ducking and dodging and,
Mhm.
all trying to keep all our balls up in the air, like trying to
Reacting, maybe.
reacting, avoid
Yeah.
this problem, avoid that problem. And we think that's our life. When
Mhm.
really that is just the residue or the result of what we've created so far.
Mhm. Mhm.
But and we're either creating deliberately or we're creating randomly. The more we take the time to go inside ourselves and do that deliberate creation, the more we're going to like what we see on the outside. When
Mm.
you look at that life and you go, I love this life. When you wake up every day and go, I just freaking love my life. It's so amazing. That's when you know you're spending enough time in your inner space, in your inner world, where you're connecting with God, connecting with yourself, the true essence of what you are,
Mhm.
connecting with God. And in doing that, you really learn to connect to others, because we're all part of this one universal consciousness. And I know it's hard for people to understand at first, but it's really, really true. We're all born of the same source. We all came from the same, whatever you want, God, universe, source, right? We are these living, uh, spiritual, vibrating light beings that are living in these really cool bodies on this earth, and but we can't forget where we really come from and who we really are, and that's the important thing.
That's amazing. Well, what do you think about people? Let's say there's someone really famous, wealthy, beautiful, and you look at them and you think, wow, their life is perfect. But if you look at them, they might be unhappy or they might not be fulfilled in their life. Can you explain that? Because I feel like everybody's ideal life is perfect, but then there's some things that are kind of perfect in our society where we look to others if they have the perfect car or celebrities, but they're not always happy. You know what I
No.
mean?
Oh,
Can you
I can
explain
guarantee
that?
you. Yeah, because I've had a lot of clients who, have
Okay.
success and, monetary success. Sometimes the people with the most monetary success are really the people who yearn the most, who have
Mm,
a deeper sense of unhappiness because they're not completely fulfilled.
mm.
Um, because
Because
while
maybe
a
they
lot of
thought that those external things would bring them happiness.
Right. When you just keep looking for the external, it's never enough. You will never be fulfilled until you find that internal fulfillment. It's never enough. It's when you can wake up and understand that you are connected to this source of everything, and there's so much beauty inside of that, and there's so much love, and you get to this point where you feel so whole. You feel so completely whole that you don't need anything. You don't need more power. You don't need more
Mm.
control. You don't need more likes and more people to like you on social media. And it's interesting, if you look just in our world at large, like the people who have the most power seem to crave more power.
Isn't that
The people
interesting?
who
Mhm.
already have, like the multi billionaires.
Mhm.
And I think some have, some altruistic reasons for doing what they do. I really believe Elon Musk is one of those people where he really wants to make the world better. I mean, he
Mhm.
sold all of his multi-million dollar houses and he went to live in a $50,000 house, and he like wakes up, he sleeps
Oh,
right
that's
next
so
to.
cool. I didn't know that about him.
Yeah, he's really amazing, actually. And because he wants to be closer to the factory, and he puts all of his salary back into the company. So there's something really amazing about that passionate
Mhm.
purposefulness. And he seems like like he loves what he does. But then
Mhm.
there are other people in all kinds of gigantic corporations around the world, and you just see like it's they have so much power and control already over humanity.
Mhm.
It's never enough. And so if it's never enough, there's some void that they're constantly trying to fill that can never be
Mhm.
filled by this external. It can be millions, it can be billions, but it's
Right.
never enough until you find that place within yourself where you go to that wholeness, where you literally feel so happy, so full, so whole, that everything you enjoy, everything you decide to create, because it's fun to create, it's beautiful to create beautiful things in your life. That's just sort of, icing on the cake to how you already are as a being in this world.
Mm. So it seems like whether you have or you don't have it yet, they could still benefit from your coaching either way, because it's about finding the inner resources, finding your own happiness, right?
That's right. I mean, it's amazing how people with so much can feel so empty sometimes. It's actually shocking. Sometimes more than people who don't have everything, but they're still seeking because
Hmm.
they haven't gotten so far away from who they are, or
Yeah.
what really matters in life, the
Mm-hmm.
connection to yourself, the connection to others, and the connection to God. And in our book, Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, the one Mark and I just launched, we talk about that. The three channels through which you need to learn to ask are ask yourself, ask others, and ask God, because the asking yourself part is that reflective journey. It's like,
Mm.
and like we were saying, too many people are just like racing through their life like a meteor hurling through space, right? Never stopping to sit with themselves in this quiet place and ask the questions, ask the
Mm.
questions that help you determine, where am I right now with my life?
Mm-hmm.
Am I happy with, I say there are three critical phases of asking yourself,
Mm.
because it's that reflective journey. It's like critical phase number one is, where am I now? Because you can never know where you want to go until you understand where you are right at this point in time. And so coming to terms with that, having a quiet meeting with yourself, where am I right now? Am I happy with the things, the way things are going? Does it feel fulfilling to me? Is there something I'm missing? All of these things, when you start to question yourself, what am I best at? What am I made for in this life? What is my greatest destiny? And then the second critical phase is, where do I want to be? Because again,
Mm.
so few people really take the time to sculpt their lives, their own lives. Where do I want to be? And Mark and I, in our book, we teach, ask that from your greatest imagination, because oftentimes, most of the time, we are remembering all of our problems from yesterday and projecting them into today and into the future,
Mm.
right? And so we're actually
So that's why we
creating
have the same life.
the same life over and
Uh-huh.
over again. But when you go into this place, you say, where do I want to be in this quiet space? And we say, go in there from the nth degree of your greatest life and use
Mm.
that beautiful imagination that God gave you. We're the only animals who have an imagination. And with that imagination, we can literally create reality. And it's just like if I ask you right now to imagine biting into a juicy lemon and just, feel it running, the juice running down your chin, you're probably salivating right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you start to feel
I love
your
lemon water.
lemon.
I'm
Right, I
drinking
do
it right
too.
now.
Right.
Yeah.
We drink it every morning and throughout the day. I put lemon on everything. But
Yeah.
it's the point is though, like your imagination, you just imagine that. And if you
Mm-hmm.
took a picture of your brain, did a brain scan, your brain would show that it looks like you really just bit into a lemon. That's how powerful your imagination is. It just imagining that kicked off the same neural connections as if you had really done that. So if we're imagining every day that the same bad things are going to happen, imagine what that's doing to our neural connections to actually put those wheels into motion,
Mm.
right? Those bad things.
Yeah.
But if you take the time in that second critical phase and say, where do I really want to be in my life? What do I want? And imagine from the nth degree of your imagination being in your perfect career. And then ask the questions backwards, because you always have to ask, because asking the question reveals the perfect answer, the perfect solution, the perfect illumination. So you ask, what would I be doing in this perfect life? Who am I serving? What products, what services? How does that tie into my greatest skills and talents? And all of these things. And as you start to ask these questions and get these answers, these illuminations or plans start to form, you start to literally engineer your perfect life backwards, with these questions from the greatest place in your imagination. And then the final critical phase of that is, what specific action steps do I need to take? Once you start getting answers, because you'll start to feel things and know things, and when you get those ideas, pick up the phone and call that person, or sit down and write that plan that just came to you. Don't think you're going to remember it, because sometimes these things are just literal flashes of genius coming to you,
Mm-hmm.
being fed from the source. You need to take action, write it down,
Mm-hmm.
act upon it, because
Yeah.
now you're connecting to that great source that's available, the universal
Mm-hmm.
source that's available to you every single day.
Yeah, or sometimes it could be possibly from the collective consciousness. That's why sometimes things are invented at the same time at different places.
That's
on the
right.
planet.
Because yeah,
Isn't that
because it's
amazing?
all of it's tied together. But that's the oneness we're talking about. We're all
Mhm.
from that same source. So as we're
Mm,
putting out this energy and these vibrations, if you so those people who are tuned, that's why the questions are so important. Because
mm,
if you're asking, how do I solve this problem? Like the cars were invented at the same time, right?
mhm.
So more than one person, Mercedes and Ford, they were both saying, how do we do a motorized vehicle that doesn't require horses and horse poop and and lots of
Yeah.
feed, right? All these problems. And they both came out at the same time. But when you start asking the questions, I mean, the universe has all of the information layered inside of it. It starts coming to you, but you have to ask.
Mm, that's beautiful. So I want to go deeper and learn about you. Tell me a little bit about yourself and where you grew up.
Okay, well, I grew up in Idaho Falls, Idaho. I'm one of 9 children, and I'm really grateful for my upbringing. My same two parents, 9 children, same two parents. Um, my mom was way ahead of her time in health. She was really amazing. She had a grand mal seizure when she was pregnant with me, and went to a neurologist. They basically said, "I have no idea what's wrong with you. Take these pills for 2 years and come back to me." And it scared her because she was pregnant, and she called my grandmother, and grandma said, "Do not take those pills. I'm going to take you to this naturopathic chiropractic doctor that moved into the town north of us."
Oh,
She took her there, and he gave her some like chiropractic adjustment and some supplements. She never had another grand mal seizure. Thank God. I was born strong and healthy. But fast forward, I was about 8 years old at my dance lessons, and my dance teacher's little boy came home, and he couldn't talk, and she introduced him to us, and his mouth was kind of hanging open, and he was drooling, and she told us he was 8 years old like me. And I went home to my mother and I said, "Mom, how can Miss Gossman's son be 8 years old like me? He doesn't even know how to talk." And she said, she was also, my mom told me the story about the grand mal seizure with me, and there was another woman who had also ironically had a grand mal seizure the same week my mom did, and was
wow.
sent to the same specialist. She ended up taking the medicine they gave her, and her child was born severely retarded. um yeah, so
Oh
I
my
was
God.
I
That could have
know
been your outcome,
I
right?
know. I am so
Wow.
grateful for my grandmother and my mom for asking the right questions. Actually, that story's in my book, because
Oh,
when it
beautiful.
comes to your health, you should be asking 100 questions. Don't You're the one who is in charge of your own body, your own health. This is your, divine temple. And so before you put anything or into it or do anything, you should do your research, ask the questions. If someone can't tell you exactly what something's going to do inside your body, then I think it's important to question it. And so my mother, thank God, did. And from that time forward, she just became really immersed in natural health. And our family physician became this doctor, Dr. Long, who was, a chiropractic naturopathic physician. And honestly, we never took antibiotics, or we
Wow.
grew, mom grew these gigantic organic gardens, and we did like juice
Mm.
cleanses, like long before this stuff was
Wow.
was chic, right? This stuff is really chic and cool now, but it
Yeah.
wasn't back then, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Right. I mean, like, we didn't have Oreos around our house, and like pop. We couldn't drink soda pop, but occasionally, but like it
Yeah.
wasn't a staple. We ate out, lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, clean meats. My mom would go to a local farm and have like the clean meats, organic,
Mhm.
butchered, and she put them in the freezer. So I learned so much from her. That became just a mainstay of my life and my life work, to
Mm.
help people with health and fitness. Because it's what I learned from the youngest age. And
Mm.
our family was so healthy looking back. I mean, not using and antibiotics are good in a pinch, but like, every time you get a cold, you're going on an
You
antibiotic.
don't want
Now
to
they
overuse them.
right,
Right.
right.
Hmm.
And just and really it was about maintaining excellent health through, exercise, fitness, nutrition, mindset, all of that stuff. So that's just a part of who I am, and my coaching practice. And
Mm.
yeah, so
Beautiful. How was it growing up with 8 other siblings? Did you ever feel that you didn't have enough attention, or did you guys all just play together and get along?
Yeah, I never felt like I didn't have enough attention at all. Like
Yeah.
my parents were really good. In fact, I felt really special that my parents did a good job. Like when we get our report cards, my dad would have a meeting, an individual meeting with each of us. And he
Oh,
wouldn't, he'd tell you, he'd treat you very, like one time I remember I got my first C because I didn't want to do the math homework in seventh grade. And I'd always gotten straight A's or A pluses. That was my little rebellion at that point.
yeah.
And I said, well, Reed, my older brother, he got D's. He got a D and he's gotten
Ah.
C's a lot. And my dad looked at me and he said, you're not him. And I will never measure you by the same standard I measure every one of you. You're different. And I want you to, perform according to your own ability, which I think was really great. My dad and my mom both saw us as individuals, they didn't expect us to be like each other, which is a real gift that I learned
Mm,
to do that with my own children, to handle them as individual beings who are on their own path. And it's like, this is what my expectations, this is who you are, this is what's important to you. Um, so that was a great gift. And then I think just you learn in a big family to develop, alliances, and it's this whole social structure that's actually quite beneficial, I think, and really very fun. I mean, it was so much, my mom was too busy to intervene in everything. So there was no helicopter parenting going on, which was
mhm.
great. You kind of were allowed to like learn and grow,
Uh-huh.
make your own mistakes. So it was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And then how old were you when you got into modeling?
In my 20s, early
Okay.
20s. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that happened because I tell the story in the book about, I graduated myself at age 16 from high school. High school was quite easy for me. And so I accelerated my curriculum, graduated at age 16, and married my boyfriend, who was 5 years older than I.
Okay.
And it turned out not to be not a great life plan, because 2.5 years later, I'm in a brand new city by myself, no family, no friends, and no idea how I was going to support myself, So
Yeah.
I'm like 19 at the time. So I decided I actually applied for food stamps. It's the only thing I could think of doing. And I remember
Mm.
standing at that grocery line the first time, getting ready to turn my food stamps over for groceries and diapers. And this huge epiphany came to me. And it was a question that came to mind. First
Wow.
question was, how did I get here? Followed by a second question that was so profound. Literally, I heard this voice in my head say, are you doing the best you can? Or are you
Wow.
taking to get out of this situation? Or are you taking the easy way out? And I was like, oh, my moment of truth. And in that
Oh,
moment, I knew the answer. Like the second my mind posed that question, or my higher self, or wherever that came from, I knew I wasn't. I knew the answer was I wasn't doing the best I could. I didn't even know what that meant. I don't know what the best I could was, but I knew I wasn't doing it. So I went home to my apartment where I was getting eviction notices every month. And I didn't have any answers, but I knew I had questions. So I started asking, who would hire me tomorrow? What are the skills I have? Fortunately, I had worked at my dad's law firm as
oh,
a kid
great.
and worked at a clothing store. And
Mhm.
the minute I started asking those questions, though, Carissa, the answer came. I had heard on the radio, Kelly Services, get a job tomorrow. So temporary service agencies. So I called them, found out how to do the paperwork. They started sending me jobs. You could say yes or no. And I started taking on all these different jobs. I was working, like filling in at attorneys' offices, and, working at doing sales at conventions and setting up booths at malls and things like that.
And did you have kids at this time?
Well, yes, I had one little boy, a little
What?
baby on my hip, right at
Oh,
that
okay.
time.
How
Yeah,
how old
so
was he?
he was 2.
Oh, he was 2. Okay. So
Yeah.
okay.
So, yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I found myself in that city with all by myself with this baby on my hip. I just didn't know what to do. That's why I went for the food stamps, because I was like, what am I
Yeah.
going to do? A marriage at that age just is really difficult. We were both too young.
Mhm.
So, of course. So, anyhow, yeah, so I started learning about myself and decided that I really loved sales. So I put myself through real estate school. And
Oh,
in the meantime, someone had approached me and said, you should do some modeling. So I thought, what do I have to lose? I'm going to go ask them to sign me. I went to the biggest talent agency we had and asked
Were
them.
you in LA?
No, I was in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, in Arizona. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I just went in, I looked up the biggest one, and they had me read some lines, and I walked down the runway pretending I knew what I was doing. And fortunately, they signed me. And so fast forward a year and a half from that time that I'm like turning over the food stamps for my diapers and food, I'm now working for the biggest home builder in our valley, and I became the #1 realtor for our company. And
Wow.
I had gotten at my talent agency, I'd done some television commercials, which went national. So now I'm getting residual
Residuals.
income.
Oh my God.
And so much that I had to join Screen Actors Guild. At a certain point, you have to join the guild, which allows you to get the best insurance benefits, especially at the time. They were the best insurance benefits on the planet for myself and my little boy, no extra charge for him. It was
Amazing.
unbelievable. And I often thought back to that moment that pivoted my
Mhm.
entire life. And it was the question. It was the question, Carissa, are you doing the best you can? Or are you taking the easy way out? And I think we all
Mhm.
have those moments of truth in our lives
Yeah.
where we need to ask ourselves the tough questions, and we need to really be able to answer it with honesty
Mhm.
and some courage, because it's not always the easiest way. It would have been really
Mhm.
easy for me to slide into my victimization, like, oh, I'm so young and how can
Mhm.
I do this on my own and all these things. But it was a life changer, because from that point, my life went straight up.
That's
And it's like
amazing.
when you make those decisions on behalf of yourself, when you ask yourself those tough questions and make a choice, or you get a revelation on behalf of yourself and you start to move toward it, with the action that we talk about in the book, it is literally life changing. It will pivot your direction so completely. It's really quite miraculous.
That's amazing. And I just want to commend you for listening to that voice, because
Yeah.
sometimes people will have that voice and they won't listen or they won't hear it, you know? So they're so busy in the moment, like, or like you said, they so identify with their current reality and the victim mentality or whatever it might be, that they're not really paying attention to maybe those signs or those voices that might come in like that, right?
That's exactly right. And that's why we say, like, we call this the asking journey, because it's
Mhm.
really like giving yourself permission to take this asking journey. And that's why the subtitle of our book is The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, because we
Mhm.
all have these dreams in our hearts, right? We were seeded with these beautiful dreams. Our souls came here loaded with all of this potential and all this amazing stuff. We can all get to our destiny, but asking the right questions, and then, like you said, listening to the answers, listening to that guidance voice, is the way we cross that bridge to our destiny, to our greatest destiny.
Mhm.
There are a lot of little points on our destiny. We can go this way or this way. All these things are waiting for us, but there's an ultimate destiny. There's an ultimate version of us out
Mhm.
there waiting. And the only way to get there is to be able to take that asking journey, ask those questions, listen to the answers, start to formulate a new plan, listen, get a new solution, uh, embrace a new illumination that helps you become someone brand new again and again and again.
I love that. And how did you meet your current husband, Mark Victor Hansen?
So yeah, it's funny. That's such a funny story, because I was my coaching practice in Scottsdale was just going really, really well. Um, I was like, I was seeing people who had been depressed their entire lives, who were like in 5 sessions completely free of I mean, crushing depression, anxiety, all of these things that you
Wow.
say you can't do, right?
Right.
Because I use hypnotherapy. I'm a
Mm.
board certified clinical hypnotherapist, which is all about just going into that quiet place in your mind with
Okay.
and then the life coaching. And I use another technique called emotional freedom technique. It's a
Mhm.
protocol of tappings, EFT. So all those things were just amazingly successful. And I was like, I got to write a book about these stories. Yeah, people need to know
Mm.
this. People deserve to know they can get out of anything and change everything. So my mom, was helping me do some editing. So one day she randomly gets an email. She calls me up and she's like, and I just gotten through my divorce. And she goes, oh, you've got to go to this event. There's an author 101 event in LA. And she goes, there'll be publishers and publicists and Mark Victor Hansen will be there. And I was like, oh, whoa, Mom. When is it? And she goes, oh, it's the day after tomorrow. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm almost positive, because I was so busy with the kids and everything. I'm writing my book, my practice. And I was like, I'm almost positive they'll be sold out. She goes, no, you need to go. It'll be your opportunity. You've got to get your book out there, honey. So I was like, okay, I'll call them, and thinking I'll just call them. They'll say we're full and then Mom will be happy. I called, left a message, and within 5 minutes, the promoter of the event himself, Rick Frischman, called me back personally, which was odd because usually an assistant would call, right? He's like, hi, this is Rick Frischman. Crystal, no, we're not full. We'd love for you to come over. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going. It sort of has a life of its own, right? So a day and a half later, I'm at this event in the VIP room. Mark was the keynote speaker. And I was so serious about my work. I'm like, I'm not drinking. I'm not even having a glass of wine. I am all business. I'm going to talk about I'm going to toot my horn about my work and my practice and my book. And ironically, this woman I was standing here talking to a speaking coach. Mark's in the corner of the room surrounded by this big entourage of people who want his time and attention, like Mark, because, he's a best-selling author in the world. And I'm just minding my business over here, not drinking. And this woman randomly from South America who was attending was talking with her hands, and she whacked a whole glass of red wine on my white pants. Me, the girl who's not drinking. So Mark sees it, and I see him break out of his crowd and come rushing over to me. And he grabs my hand. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. I think I know where the club soda is. Here, let me get you some. And he pulled me out of the room. And he actually did know where the club soda was, because he had done a lot of events in this. It was a big event hotel where and so we got the club soda, and he just starts, it was like his way to break in, I guess. And he just starts asking me, he's like, what do you do? And I started telling him, about my practice and my book and everything. He's like, there's something really amazing about you. I think you could really make a difference for women in the world, especially for people, but especially women, And he said, I'd love to hear more about your book and your everything, your practice and everything, but I'm starving. It's 9:30. Would you like to go to dinner? But I have to leave this property or we're going to be thronged all night with people. And I said, sure. I actually hadn't eaten either. So went upstairs. I said, let me change out of these red pants, these white stains. So I go upstairs.
So at this point, were you attracted to him, or you weren't even thinking that yet?
I wasn't even thinking that at all. It was just oh, this is exciting. This is cool. Because there was a dynamic feeling.
Yeah, you had some energy going.
Sure,
right?
An energy. We had this energy, and I go, Mom. So I call my mom. I go, I got to be quick. How are the kids doing? But I said, you're not going to believe it. I'm going to dinner with Mark Victor Hansen. And she goes, I knew it. And I was like, really, Mom? I swear, my mom's like that, though. I think a lot of moms are almost intuitive without even knowing it. Her sending me to that when I really wasn't even sure I wanted to go. And then she had a feeling. She had a feeling I was going to meet Mark. And we went to dinner, and it was like we'd known each other forever, but I still wasn't ready to date. So I said,
how long had it been since your divorce?
Oh gosh. Well, it had been going on for a year, but finally everything had gotten filed and everything. And it was just, I felt so exhausted. And I also was protective of my kids, because it was, we had the summer ahead. It was in May, and the whole summer ahead of us. And I planned my whole summer with my kids so that we were doing fun things together, and they weren't sad about the whole situation, and I wasn't going to break that. And so I said, after my summer with my kids, he said, are you a free agent? And I was like, I want to spend this time first. And when they're back in school, I'm just not ready to date. But it was great because we became great friends over that summer.
Yeah. It's almost like there's no pressure, right?
No pressure. We would just have phone call. He would call me. Well, it was interesting. I also, ironically, won at the event. They did this random hat drawing, and they picked who gets their title picked with Mark Victor Hansen. They picked me, and it was random. I swear, I hadn't even met him yet. I hadn't met him. It was just randomly. So the universe was going, you two are
They
coming
were
together. Yeah, it
inspiring.
was undeniable. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. And then when did you decide that you wanted to marry him? After that summer? Your next date?
Yeah, so we started dating in the fall and after the summer, and it never stopped. We just
Okay.
kept dating and dating and dating and dating. You know, my girls were still in high school. I didn't want to move to California. He was in California. I was, so we were going back and forth, back and forth. I'd go there, he'd go here, you know, every week and
Mhm.
back and forth. And that went on for like a year and a half. And then my girls were getting old. They were they're 1 year apart in high school. So they were in their last 2 years of high school, but I wasn't going to change, you know, their
Their
life.
life. Yeah.
Right. So I had to finish that first. So then they graduated by 2010 and I moved to California and we lived there for a couple of years and then got married in 2011.
Oh, wonderful. And then what brought you back to Scottsdale?
I lived in California for 8 years. Mark had been there for 40 something years, but we had properties here that we had
Mhm.
purchased, investment properties, rentals. We love
Mhm.
to stay at one of our condos here. We really love it. It's a 3-bedroom condo, and we would come back quite frequently because strangely enough, has a lot of friends here. This is where the National Speakers Association was founded in Phoenix,
Oh,
Arizona.
interesting.
And yeah, and so a lot of major speakers whom he befriended on the circuit, they've
Mhm.
been very close for many years, live here. They're based here. So he
Oh.
automatically had this whole entourage of friends. Of course, I had all my friends, and we just love the energy of the desert here.
Mm.
Scottsdale is such a lovable, livable place.
Mm.
It's ranked the most livable city in the country or something like that. But
That's
um,
wonderful.
yeah, we love it. We got married in Sedona, Arizona, which is
Oh,
gorgeous.
yeah, I love Sedona. I've been there.
Yeah, isn't it
Amazing.
amazing? Mhm.
Okay, I have to ask about your incredible video on your website. When you traveled to China, what was that experience like?
Oh my gosh, we traveled there a number of times, and
Okay.
I'll tell you, it saddens me that there's all this international stress now,
Yeah.
because, you know, between China and us, and just everybody. It goes back to that power and greed thing. I think
Hmm.
everyone's like, you know, I want to dominate more. I want to take over more. You know, but and the government then was a little bit less that way. The government has shifted from the time we were going there. It was really working well at the time. They were pulling a lot of entrepreneurs in. They loved these events. We would go to events that had thousands of people, and the people of China are so lovely and delightful. They almost have, because many of them, you know, in that age group had not gone to college. Now they've got so much wealth that all their kids are going to college. But
Hmm.
in, you know, anyone from age like 40 up to 70, you know, who didn't have that opportunity because when Mao shut down the country, everybody was put in the fields and like there was just no entrepreneurism. And then slowly that paradigm was broken. It was so beautiful because they are just amazing workers, amazing entrepreneurs, amazing business people. They're earning money and they so appreciate all that we can teach them from the United States because we're, you know, steps ahead of them in those areas. And they also love consciousness because sort of spiritual teachings were kind of crushed out of the society so much and for such a long period of time. And so they were so amazing, so warm and receptive and loving. And those are some of our fondest memories. I mean, we were treated like gold, you know, we'd be picked up in Bentley limos and treated like literally like rock stars. I mean, one day
Hmm.
Mark and I were coming out of the hotel room and there's a whole line of security guards like in uniform down the hall. Mark whispered to me, he's like, isn't this a little overkill? And I'm like, yeah, kind of, I think. But we thought it was, but then the event was so big that when they took us aside to do the picture, that there's like a picture time where they
Uh-huh.
upsell, you get a picture with Mark and Crystal. People got so excited they started like diving over the line. It was so great. And we're just laughing inside going, it's just us, you know, but they're so honored to meet you and just so excited in their mind, like you're such a rock star. And oh, we had so much fun, so many good times with so many thousands and thousands of people. And our agent there is just the most amazing guy. And we'd have some down days because we do a 3-city tour. And so he was so gracious to always take us to the most amazing historical sites in China. It's such an old country that it's fascinating. The art, the architecture, the history is just magnificent. And so I'm kind of sad that we haven't been there in the last few years. But it was amazing. You saw all the security guards.
Yeah, I saw that. I was, oh my gosh, I have to ask her about that.
We're driving into one event one time, and I'm just looking out the limo, and all of a sudden I see this huge billboard. And I was like, something looked really familiar on that. And then we keep going down the road, and like there's another huge billboard, and I'm like, that's us, honey. That's us.
Something looks familiar. Did you take a picture? You had to take a picture.
Yes, we did. And then once we got to the event itself, there were a huge billboards set up. I think some of them are showing that thing, and like shopping bags with our picture on it. It's just like they really know how to make you feel special.
That's amazing.
So sweet.
So tell me about your other book, Skinny Life. What inspired you to write it?
Yes, well, in the work that I've done with clients, it's, weight issues are pretty much the same as any issue, right? They start and end in your mind. And so I would have these clients who would come to me, and they'd been on like seriously 30 diets throughout their life, on and off, like a roller coaster, but they always return to their same weight or even heavier usually. And so I thought, something's wrong with this model, this diet, weigh yourself every day. And I realized it is exactly the wrong approach. So my approach became throw away your scales and stop counting calories. Okay. Learn to love I want you to love foods more than you ever have, but I want you to learn to love the foods that love you back. And Skinny Life is all about self-love, because you will never have a permanent change in your weight and fitness until you have a permanent change in your mind. And so it's all about all the audios that go along with Skinny Life are all about changing your identity. And actually, I'm having an issue with my website. I'm glad you reminded me. I got to get with my web guys. But and I'm redoing the whole book and redoing the whole program, because it's an important program for people. I ran it for a while, and it was so popular. But you have to change that identity inside your mind, because really what I found with people is they were somewhere inside always waiting for the fat person to come out again. So nothing had really changed. If this doesn't change on the inside, nothing will ever permanently change on the outside. And it's more important than ever to realize that. So people would have amazing results. And the beautiful thing is they'd start to love themselves again, and stop beating themselves up, and stop all that game playing that we do. Run, eat 3 cookies and go weigh yourself, and
Right.
Right.
That's amazing. I love that. You just like need to switch it in their brain about who they think they are. So what's next for you? Are you doing a virtual book tour or an actual book tour?
Yeah. Well, we're doing, we had these huge events when Ask launched. We had gigantic, like multi-thousand people events set up. All that got canceled. It happened right after COVID hit. So, but we started doing the virtual tour, and you know what? We podcast all the time. We love like this, reaching out to people. It's a great way to reach people quickly and reach a lot of people. And the book's done really well. I'm thankful. It's we've sold out of books a number of times. We've hit Amazon bestseller a number of times. So I'm thankful.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, thank you. And more than anything, I just think like the letters we get from people saying, you gave me hope again. You gave me a way forward again, because it is a way forward. It's a really practical but deeply meaningful journey forward. And so we're doing that. We're also creating a course for the asking. We're offering a free webinar, and then if people want to come into the course, if you go to Ask the Book Club, if you get the book on Amazon, that's the best place to get it. And then, or Barnes and Noble, anywhere you want, and some of the independent stores, you can get it there, whatever you want to support. But if you get the book, go to Ask the Book Club and join us for the free webinar. And we want to really help take people further in this asking journey. to make it more meaningful for them and help them really start to become master askers, because there's nothing more important that you can do in this life to make sure that you're moving towards your ultimate destiny. And so we're doing that. And then we're working on we're launching the Mark Victor Hansen Library, where we do a lot of ghostwriting of books for people. Some people have wonderful ideas, but they just don't know how to get them in writing. So we're helping people with that. That's a huge
Wow,
project.
that sounds exciting.
I know. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, it's really exciting, and it's really helping people take their message to the world. And I've been designing that site and the whole message for that the last few days. And then we're writing this beautiful biography too of a good friend of Mark's. His name's Reverend Dyke.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Black pastor who was huge through starting in the 60s all the way through like the late 90s. And then he passed on in 2009. But the family came to Mark and said, we'd love for you to write his biography. So we've been writing that together, and it's been an amazing book. It'll be an amazing story. But
oh, that's great. And maybe made into a movie someday.
yep, there's already chatter of that, because his life is just outstanding. And also we've got some interested parties in making a movie with the fable. I don't know, have you read the Fable of Michaela in Ask? It starts with the Fable of Michaela.
No, I haven't.
Oh gosh, it's a fictional story. It's the prologue. They say it's the longest prologue that's ever been. But so Michaela starts off, she's lost everything. And her job every day, her mom died, her dad died, the bill collectors took away her home. It takes place in the time of kings and queens. And so her job every day, she was basically an indentured servant at a stone quarry. So every day her life is about moving heavy rocks from one place to another. And then one night she goes home to fall asleep. She's sleeping, and her home is in a grove of trees because she's lost her home. And she falls into an exhausted sleep, and the being comes to her, and he takes her on this amazing journey and basically shows her this sparkling asking bridge, and how people who notice it are going across the bridge and finding this happiness, but so many people pass the bridge by and don't even know it's there. And he admonishes her. He says, Michaela, the key is to ask and never stop asking. And then it gets into the whole story, but there are subsequent dreams. And then as little by little, layer by layer, her whole life starts to open up and unfold. And from the beginning to the end of the book, her life has changed 180 degrees. And so it's kind of every woman, every man's story. People are really seeing themselves in the story. It's been amazing, Carissa. Like, we'll have grown men, like podcasters who have these huge audiences go, I read this story and I've never cried, but I cried in the story because I could see the patterns in myself. And, it's one of those stories that just is so relatable because of that universal human experience. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I look forward to reading it.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure getting to know you. You're such a beautiful person inside and out. And thank you. And you're making such an impact on the world with your businesses and your books. So yeah, I'll put your website and whatever information, how to buy the book, Ask, and in the show notes so people can see them in. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.